Welcome back to Harbor. The 112th Congress left office with a favorability rating lower than head lice, apparently. You can thank the Tea Party for ensuring that it was also the least productive Congress on record. So how are Republicans kicking off the new legislative session of Congress? Apparently by picking up right where they left off. As Michele Bachmann proudly boasted on Twitter, quote, she, quote, introduced the first bill of the 113th Congress to repeal Obamacare in its entirety. Well, you might recall Republicans have tried at least 33 times before this to repeal all or part of Obamacare. Those are efforts that have absolutely no chance of passing since the Senate, as we all know, is controlled by the Democrats, and the veto pen wielding president is unlikely to repeal his own health care bill. Well, Congresswoman Bachmann is not alone, picking up on old fights. In the first few days of the new Congress, Republicans have tried to re-engage in fights over anchor babies, defunding Planned Parenthood, and even passing a personhood bill, if you can believe that after all this argument. In other words, here we go again. Michael Steele's the former chair of the Republican National Committee and an MSNBC political analyst, and Bob Shrum's a Democratic strategist. Let's look at this one. Here's Michele Bachmann, as I said, might be fighting to repeal Obamacare, but John Boehner concedes it's a losing battle. In an interview with ABC back in November after the election, the Speaker of the House said the election settled the issue of Obamacare. I thought it was a reasonable statement by the Speaker. Let's listen.
I think the election changes that. It's pretty clear that the president was reelected. Obamacare is the law of the land.
You know, somebody said on the show the other night something about a few bad apples spoiling the bunch, Michael Steele, and you're laughing because, you know, I didn't think that was true. Though I think about it, if you do get a couple bad apples, they're rotten, they've been around too long, and you put them in with a bunch of other apples. In fact, when you go picking apples at the Safeway, you look to see that they haven't messed up the other apples. And you have people in the Republican Party that just seem to want to go back into the gooey stuff that causes nothing but trouble, like going after Obamacare. Why don't you guys see if it works or not? Then go after. Why attack it in its crib again?
I agree with you. And the point to note about your vegetable or fruit analogy there is that bad apples can accelerate the spoiling of those good apples. Yeah. So, and I think that's the point here. Look, you don't lead off this Congress, I don't think, with those types of legislations. You lead it off with bills that are going to create jobs, that puts the president on a point to address spending. That's where the issue is right now. I
said it last night. I'm not selling your party on how it should win elections,
right, but
you want to get in this game.
That's the sweet spot that the party needs to get into. No, the Speaker had it right. Okay, the election's over. The other side won. The American people have spoken. Now let's govern. And how we want to govern on creating jobs and economic prosperity is the talking point.
Guess what? Rotten apples can talk. Last summer, after Mitt Romney picked Paul Ryan as his running mate, Ryan was awkwardly forced to try and answer questions about the difference between his views on abortion and Romney's. We'll take a listen.
Should abortions be available to women who are raped?
Well, look, I'm proud of my pro-life record, and I stand by my pro-life record in Congress. It's something I'm proud of. But Mitt Romney is the top of the ticket, and Mitt Romney will be president, and he will set the policy of the Romney administration.
Well, you might recall that Ryan co-sponsored a personhood bill with Todd Akin in the past. Well, guess what legislation Ryan has signed on to again last week in this new Congress, another personhood bill. It reads in part, the life of each human being begins with fertilization, cloning, or its functional equivalent, at which time every human being shall have all the legal and constitutional attributes and privileges of personhood. Here we are back again, Bob Shrum, to the 14th Amendment rights, including property being accorded to the fertilized egg. It just seems to me an argument that gets very fundamentalist and causes nothing but trouble for the Republicans in the suburbs and the cities, anywhere where people might not like this kind of talk.
Well, I think that's right. And one thing Paul Ryan obviously learned from Mitt Romney was how to flip-flop. Look, this is a really extreme measure.
He's flopped back again.
Flip, flop, flip. It would outlaw all stem cell research. It would outlaw common forms of birth control. It's so extreme that the voters of Mississippi rejected it in a popular referendum. Now, Paul Ryan may believe this, but I also think his appraisal of the 2016 landscape in the Republican primaries is that it's not going to change much from 2012, that there's going to be a purity litmus test. You have to pass that litmus test to be the nominee. So you think about those Iowa caucuses, they're dominated by the religious right. You think about someone like Chris Christie who could run, who says, look, we got to be a party that compromises. And by the way, when Michael Steele was lieutenant governor of Maryland, he was part of an administration that compromised, worked work with Democrats and got
we know
things
he's
done.
a good guy.
Yeah.
We know he's a good guy.
But look, that's what the country wants, and these folks don't get it.
Okay, let's talk about the Latino vote, which is really a community which is very much in play in the sense that a very recent president, was very successful in that community.
Right.
So it obviously is not anchored, if you will, to one party. Remember anchor babies, to use the term another way? Congressman Steve King introduced a bill back in 2011, 2 years ago now, to clarify, in his words, the 14th Amendment. The amendment, by the way, grants citizenship to anyone born. It was written after the Civil War for African Americans, obviously. Well, King argued it was not meant to include babies of illegal immigrants. Take a look.
Anchor babies are babies that are born in the United States to an illegal mother, and the practice over the years has been to grant automatic citizenship to babies born on U.S. soil. They sneak into the United States, many of them for the purposes of having the baby. They get the little birth certificate with their little feet prints on there, and then they either stay here or they go back to their home country and wait until that child comes of age, and then they use that child to apply to bring in the family, the nuclear family, then the extended family. And it's out of control.
Well, you might expect something like that from the man who questioned whether Barack Obama's mom might have sent his birth announcement by telegram from Kenya. Well, King is at it again with anchor babies. He introduced a new bill, I said last week with a statement. The current practice of extending U.S. citizenship to hundreds of thousands of anchor babies must end because it creates a magnet for illegal immigration into our country. Let me ask you, there's something about the way that guy talks I don't like. He talks about illegal mothers, like having the baby was the illegal act, and the little feet, and the little feet prints, and the derogatory way he talks.
I can't hear.
You got to get the sense he might just be prejudiced against Latinos.
Well,
just a guess.
I don't know.
Just a guess.
I know Steve well, and I don't get that sense from him. But to this point, Chris, that video makes the argument for the comprehensive immigration reform that everybody now knows we need to address. Yeah. And this is going to be a part of that. If we can get one, this is going to be a part of that conversation. You're not going to solve the immigration problems of this country by attacking the Constitution.
Well, we have a minute.
You're not.
We just lost Bob Trump technically, but let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Why doesn't your party do its bit? Instead of calling for the removal or self-deportation of 12 million people, focus on teeth. Putting teeth in the next immigration.
I agree.
So let the Democrats do the liberal stuff. You guys put the teeth in, and you all do your part. And we get an immigration bill.
But this,
how about a work permit, something like that works?
Look, I was at Donahue's speech this morning at the chamber.
He should be for it,
and he laid out a very comprehensive.
Well, that's what you guys have to do.
Those
Get
voices
together.
are up
if we can't do immigration reform, you guys play the bad cop. The other guys play the good cop. We get it done. Anyway, you may not like that job, but somebody's got to do it. Anyway, thank you, Michael Steele, and thank you, Bob Shrum, up in Boston, I think. I'm in New York.
No, I'm out here in sunny Southern California.
Good to have you back, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Good for that weather report.